What could have happened if the X-Men had been given more big screen movies? Well, I'm glad you asked. By November of 2016, with development underway on Deadpool 2, Fox was also planning Deadpool 3, which was said to include the X-Force team. Now with confirmation that we've got Leach back to direct Deadpool 2, Fox was like, maybe let's get somebody different for Deadpool 3, lessen the load. And it was clarified that Deadpool 2 was going to set up the X-Force team, but a future film focused on the team would be separate from Deadpool 3. Because X-Force was where they were launching something bigger, but then Deadpool 3 was where they were going to contract and stay personal and small. So after the release of the second film, Ryan Reynolds was like, I don't think I want to do Deadpool 3, seeing as we're going to want to shift our focus to X-Force. But everybody else was like, oh no, we're going to get a third film, we'll just let them take a little break, we'll get X-Force out. They kind of compared it to how Iron Man got Iron Man 3 after the Avengers, we just need to sidestep for a minute. And also, the director was like, yeah, I'll come back. Well, in January 2021, Ryan Reynolds was like, hey, yeah, the plot of the film would have had Deadpool and Wolverine going on a road trip, which would have been fun. Now, obviously, all of that never happened thanks to the merger, but I'm kind of glad it didn't, so then we were able to get the Deadpool and Wolverine movie that we did get, which was phenomenal. In July of 2004, Bryan Singer, the director of the first couple of X-Men films, left the production of the third film in favor of developing Superman Returns for Warner Brothers Pictures. Singer stated that he didn't fully have X-Men 3 in his mind, in contrast to a fully formed idea for a Superman film and interest in joining that franchise. And by the time of his departure, Singer had only produced a partial story treatment with X2 screenwriters Dan Harris and Michael Dougherty, who followed him to Superman Returns. Now this treatment focused on Jean Grey's resurrection, which would also introduce the villainess Emma Frost, a role that was intended for Sigourney Weaver. Now Frost was an empath, manipulating Jean's emotions in the treatment, and like the finished film, Magneto desires to control her. Overwhelmed by her powers, Jean takes her own life, but her spirit survives and becomes a godlike creature, which folks compare to the Star Child in A Space Odyssey. Minus Bryan Singer being involved, I'm kind of okay with this half-baked concept. Could have been interesting. In 2010, Zack Stentz and Ashley Edward Miller were set to co-write an ensemble film featuring every Marvel Comics property. Well, those whose film rights were owned by 20th Century Fox. So we would have had the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Daredevil, Deadpool. The plot revolved around a superhero registration act, pitting various characters on opposite sides of the conflict. Kind of similar to Civil War, but that didn't come out till 2016, so this was way before that in terms of films. Paul Greengrass had been approached to serve as director, although scheduling conflicts kind of placed the project indefinitely on hold. Warren Ellis worked separately on another draft of the script, and Greengrass later stated that he was never contractually signed on to work the project, and that in the end, nothing happened. Look, I could totally see this becoming a reality now, seeing as everything's under one umbrella. We've kind of established a whole team of supes that align with Deadpool, and also Fantastic Four, we're getting them back. So Kinberg said in May 2016 that he planned for his directorial debut, Dark Phoenix, to be the first in a trilogy, spawning a whole new line of films focusing on the younger versions of the original X-Men characters. After the proposed acquisition of 21st Century Fox by Disney was announced in December of 2017, Bob Iger was kind of like, yeah, the X-Men will be integrated with the MCU under Disney. We're gonna get a reboot of the X-Men franchise. Yeah, okay. A year later, Kinberg was like, yeah, Kevin Feige reviewed the script, reviewed the tone of Dark Phoenix, and in 2019, Fox executive Emma Watts was like, yeah, Dark Phoenix is the final Fox X-Men film. We're not gonna do any sequels. Which, by the way, we'll talk more about those in a moment. Oh well. In October 2014, Josh Zetumer was hired to write the screenplay for a film about famed character Remy LeBeau, or more commonly known as Gambit, based on the treatment by comic book writer Chris Claremont. Rupert Wyatt was then hired to direct in June of 2015, had to leave in September because of scheduling conflicts. In November, Doug Liman was hired to direct the film, but left this project in August 2016 to direct, well, Justice League, and also citing script issues. August of 2017, Channing Tatum, who signed on as the title character, was like, yeah, we're rewriting the script. Again and again. By October of that year, Gore Verbinski had signed on as director, while Zetumer continued to work on the script. Now Verbinski departed the film in 2018 because of scheduling issues. So this whole project would have had Channing Tatum, obviously, and we would have had Donner, Kinberg, Tatum, and Reed Carolyn attached as producers, and Kinberg said that the film was intended to be the start of multiple installments focusing on Gambit. Now, the final script had been completed, allegedly, and production would have commenced in New Orleans by the third quarter of 2018, and the movie would have come out on March 13th, 2020. okay, good timing. Well, in October, Daniel Wilburn of Screen Rant was like, hey, this has been in development hell since 2014, and with the whole Disney-Fox merger thing, yeah, I have a feeling this is gonna get the chop because, well, we're gonna get the X-Men characters in the MCU, right? And we did have some folks higher up that were like, yeah, no, Gambit's gonna be on hold until the deal goes through, right? Well, in May of 2019, the film was removed from the release schedule and officially canceled. But, and spoiler alert folks, we still got Channing Tatum as Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine, and oh, he absolutely nailed his portrayal. It was so good, I can't wait to see him again and again. In December of 2016, Josh Boone originally pitched the New Mutants as the first in a trilogy. He's like, I got this great idea. In October of 2017, he's like, hey, like Warlock, Karma, they're gonna come in the sequels. We want to create our own distinct kind of horror movie, which like, come on, give it to me. According to his description, the first film was the rubber reality supernatural horror movie. Now the next one would have been a completely different kind of horror movie. Our take was just to go examine the horror genre through comic book movies and make each one its own distinct sort of horror film, which would draw from the big events that we love in the comics. He said that connections to the wider X-Men universe could have been explored more in future films. Now Boone and Lee were like, yeah, we're interested in this. Maybe let's do this in Brazil. Also, we could have gotten like Emmanuel da Costa. Which like, But in August of 2020, it was like, yeah, we're not getting the New Mutants in the MCU. But hey, maybe. Nothing's impossible. In December of 2004, 20th Century Fox hired screenwriter Sheldon Turner to draft a spin-off X-Men film, and he chose to write Magneto. He's like, okay, let's see, The Pianist meets X-Men. Well, in April of 2007, David S. Goyer was hired to direct. The film was set to mostly take place in flashbacks. We were gonna have actors in their 20s, and then also like Ian McKellen was gonna be brought back. We're gonna get Magneto as a framing device, and then we get that computer-generated facelift sort of stuff to try and smooth things over. Magneto was planned to film in Australia for a 2009 release, and by 2008 the project was seeking approval to film in Washington DC, and like if X-Men Origins Wolverine was successful, they were like, let's go. Well, by 2009, Ian McKellen was like, I'm not coming back as Magneto, I'm getting a bit old, and Lauren Schuller Donner was like, I don't think this is gonna be made, it's at the back of the priority list, which that kinda means it's dead. Both Donner and Bryan Singer were like, the X-Men First Class is kind of superseding this story, so ixnay. Now Singer denied using Sheldon Turner's script for Magneto as inspiration to write his draft of First Class, but the Writers Guild of America arbitration still credited Turner for the film's story, while Jamie Moss and Josh Schwartz's collaborations kind of ended up uncredited. Well, that's the end of our list folks. I've been Alexa, see ya!